because I know what the Lutheran Church does all over the world. And I guess because I've traveled a lot, and I know about so many needs that are out there. And to me, that's where it's very important to see yourself beyond who you are right here on this corner. We're not just Trinity in Germantown or Christ in Upper Darby, you know. We're part of a church that serves the whole world.
The wider church can do so many things that we can't do by ourselves, that we can be a part of mission work, a part of programming, a part of social ministry that we don't have the skills or the resources to do. To know that the Synod gives over half to the national church for even the larger church's ministry is very, very exciting.
And so I think it's important that the churches recognize how globally the Synod operates.
Now, mission support really makes a difference. Mission support saves lives. Because of what the ELCA and Synod is able to do, can really make a difference in having missions and ministries alive and in places where they're needed.
My travels with the church through Africa showed me that mission support is real. It's not just dollars that go off to some bureaucracy. It's school books for children. It's medicine for AIDS patients. It's wells and latrines that really preserve life.
That sense of being in partnership as a congregation with each other, and then as a synod with area churches, and then, you know, with other Lutheran churches all over the world, that sense of what God will do with us collectively just grows.
Although this may seem unusual to some people, I consider my pastor as part of my giving and an extension of my stewardship. So that when I give, a portion of my money goes to my pastor's salary. And then he goes out and he does things for me that I can't do because I'm not trained. I don't have the experience.
I mean, that's really what mission support is about. It's about cutting back a little bit on ourselves in order that the church can be there in those places where the church is so desperately needed.
I think it's important for a practical reason, that is, without personal and congregational gifts, a larger church would cease to exist. I mean, there isn't this money from heaven floating down to fund these larger church institutions.
We've kind of followed a formula over the years of increasing our giving to the Synod. We've always felt that that's a very important statement that we make as a congregation, that we are giving beyond our own congregation and to the greater church.
You know, Jesus was always with the less fortunate. And, you know, so what you've done to the least of these, you've done for me. And sometimes you have to use that as a teaching. And then teaching people that, you know, when you give, it comes back as a blessing for the church. In some way, it comes back.
This past summer, we had our very first adult family mission trip to Mexico. The people came back to from Mexico, and just were incredibly touched, grew in faith, talked about how God had empowered them and enabled them, and how they really grew to love Jesus even more on a 3-day trip to Mexico, outside of their comfort zone. All that was made possible by people's financial giving.
I've been there 3.5 years now, and they had sold the parsonage shortly before I arrived. And for about a year after I was there was a decision that was floating back and forth about tithing the money that was received from the parsonage. For some, they resented it very much, you know, to look at a budget that, you know, $50,000 worth of debt. How can you give away $27,000? You know, this does not compute.
You know, every year at Advent, when we come to where it's time to do the budget, we walk in faith and trust. We've just hired a director of Christian education, and some of that is walking in trust and faith that as we move forward and proclaim the gospel, we're going to be able to do what we need to do with the ministry that the director of Christian education will provide for us.
Because mediators and North Philadelphia, and the average income is $23,000. So it is a sacrifice for people to give up their 10%. But what a great sacrifice, it's better to give.
The church is more than a group of people that cares for themselves and meets the budget. The church has to be a voice that, speaks for the larger people of the world and for God's people in greater need than we are.
So it really isn't about money as much as it's about enabling ministry, and how ministry really gives hands and feet and heart to our mission of making Christ known.
I challenge my leadership as we would look at a budget and what would be our benevolence. If it is that we're asking our people to trust and walk in faith, we as leadership want and need to do that as well. And so that what we receive in offerings, we want to tithe out to the synod, who then gives out to the national church.
If we are Christians, we are all in the kingdom of God, supposed to be doing His work.